welcome to Kevin Sorbo. All
of us. And they didn't pay us.
On a Friday, there's nobody here yet. How are you?
Doing well.
Hercules.
We gotta do one when it's, we're gonna set this up, do it again tomorrow. We have to.
Fridays are always
they're decent. I mean, the people at the table have already been kind of steady, which is surprising for a Friday because people still get out of work today, right?
Yep.
But I love doing panels on Saturdays too. So if there's an opening, since Bruce canceled, there's Lou Ferrigno. I called Lou, I said, Lou, what's up? He says, I'm filming. I don't know what he's filming, but he's filming something. That's why he couldn't show up. So Lou's a good buddy of mine. Lou's a hoot to go out with, I gotta tell you. This guy's like when Harry met Sally when he orders his food. It's like, I need 2 cherries, small cherry tomatoes, and they have to be on the side, left side of the plate, and I need this and that. Oh, he's like really picky about it.
I mean, yeah, I was a kid when Hulk came out.
He's hilarious.
Always a big fan. That's great.
So before I got Hercules, I got to do another Lou story. I lived right in the Venice-Santa Monica border when I first moved out there. I'm from small town Minnesota. And Lou, before I became Hercules, I was an actor just trying to get a gig. At Gold's Gym, if I was on, like sitting on a bench that Lou wanted to use, Lou would just walk up and do this. You need this? Okay. And you move for Lou.
That's great. Well, let's talk about your pre-Hercules career.
Sure.
I know that's where you hit it big, but you did a lot of stuff before then.
I did.
I remember I was a kid. I remember the Jim Beam commercial that you did back in the day.
Oh my gosh. So I did a lot of commercials. I'm very lucky. I was one of the few guys I know that moved to LA. I didn't know a soul. I went out there like every actor dreaming of becoming an actor or whatever in LA. Drove up my beat up old car and just got out to LA from Minneapolis. I stayed at a friend of a friend's place. And it's very quickly, it's easy to find out what acting, everybody's an actor in LA. So everybody you meet, every waiter, every bartender, whatever, they're all in acting. So you find out which classes to take and stuff like that. Well, commercial work was really good for me in Minneapolis, where I'm from. And when I was going through college, I did a lot of commercials. I mean, maybe you know some of this, but maybe you don't know how many national headquarters are in Minneapolis. You got 3M, Honeywell, Cargill, Pillsbury, General Mills, Target, which I did a lot of commercials. So I had a great commercial reel, and I got a commercial agent right away. When I got to LA, I started working right away in commercials. And the Jim Beam one you mentioned, shot in New Zealand. So I go down to New Zealand, it's 1992, and I shoot this Jim Beam commercial. And at the time, you couldn't do hard alcohol in America. Of course, now you couldn't do pharmaceutical drugs in commercials. Of course, now every other commercial is booze or pharmaceuticals with 75 side effects, and which a really fast guy talks about. Like my boys, I just love my boys. Gee, Dad, bleeding from the anus. I want to take that drug. So I get this commercial. It goes down and shoots in Auckland, New Zealand. I'm there for 10 days filming this commercial. And it was so funny because you see the commercial, it looks like a redneck bar in the middle of Oklahoma or Nebraska.
It's New Zealand.
And they shot it in a warehouse in New Zealand. They wanted to make it, and I thought, what are you guys doing this for? Well, we had extra money, and if we don't use up all our money this year, they won't give us the same for the next year. So they went down to there.
Nice.
So I'm walking around New Zealand in Auckland. I said, I love it here. This is amazing. I hope I get back here. Of course, a year later, I got Hercules and ended up living there for 7 years. So sometimes just put it up to the universe and it can happen.
Well, you did some TV shows. One I want to bring up, I didn't remember this actually until I started doing some research on this, but I watched the show religiously when I was young, and that was First and 10 on HBO. You did a couple
First and 10.
You did a couple of appearances on
I played a wide receiver. First and 10 was the first original cable show for any cable, and HBO was the king back then. They were the first ones to do it. I would sit. I'm an avid golfer. I've already golfed this morning, by the way. So,
the right town.
I love golf. So it'd be Lawrence Taylor from the Giants, and O.J. Simpson. You may have heard things about him.
Delta Bird.
So we would sit there. No, but we were all golfers. So we would sit at one end zone with a pitching wedge and hit 120-yard shots from one field goal to the other field goal in between shots, just to hit around at that stadium we shot at. But yeah, I did that back in the mid '80s.
I mean, it was a great show. Nobody remembers it. Like you said, it
was a good show.
It was the first original cable series. First series.
Now they all do it, of course. They all do original programming, but this is way before AMC and Anybody else?
Yeah, HBO was
Wow,
kind of.
you did some homework there, yeah.
I love that show, and nobody remembers it, and it annoys me. And then when I saw, like, oh my God,
I loved it. I played football through college, so I was fun in the first and 10. I was like, heck yeah, I'll read for that.
Right? Yeah. That was cool.
I
So,
was soap opera for a while. I was on
You did
Santa
soap
Barbara
operas,
for a while, yeah. My name is Lars Stedwell.
nice.
I played a gigolo.
I was about to say, are you sure that wasn't
And
a
I was a chauffeur driver for this guy that wanted to get out of his marriage, and the marriage was infidelity, so I was paid to get his wife into bed. So welcome to the soap opera world.
Nice. How was that, doing soap opera work? I mean, because it seems...
It wasn't my cup of tea.
Yeah.
It's not what I wanted to do, but I thought, it's a chance to get some tape. I was new to LA, and I did it. But it wasn't, it's funny. Even after Andromeda finished in 2005, I've been asked about 3-4 times through the years since then that, would you be in a soap opera? They put a decent, contract in front of me. I said, I just have no interest.
Yeah. I mean, it seems very different.
Yeah, it's fine. I know actors who've done it. I just wasn't interested in doing it.
Gotcha. Yeah. So you did get your big break, obviously, with Hercules.
Yeah.
Made you a worldwide star. Tell me about that. How did that come about?
Well, that was when I first got. I'm 6'3", and I'm lighter now than I was in Hercules. I was 225 back then. And when they called me for it, I was like, okay, I'm in good shape. I'm pretty, good shape. And I said, but why? I think they wanted like a Lou Ferrigno, Arnold Schwarzenegger bodybuilder type. And they said, no, they wanted an NFL quarterback size guy, or decathlon the guy. I said, okay. So I went and auditioned, and sure enough, everybody in there, good-looking athlete guys and stuff like that. Okay. I read, felt I did good. A couple weeks later, they called me for another callback. I read, a couple weeks later, called me for another call. 7 times they called me back. They interviewed 2,800 actors in North America for the role, up in Canada as well. I get down to the last 3 guys. And so we get to Universal Studios there. If anybody's ever been to Universal Studios in LA, at the 101 freeway, there's this big, tall, black building that leads up into all the rides and everything. That's where all the executives are. That's the building where actors go to die, is what I tell people. It's brutal, what they put you through. And I got in a room, I stood on stage like this, and they had probably about 150 seats in there. It was a big screen behind us. It's where all the studios, it was platformed like a movie theater. It's where they go in there, look at their movies and TV shows, their pilots and stuff, to decide what they want to do. So Sam Raimi's in the front row. Sam was our executive producer. People know Sam, of course, from Evil Dead and all the Spider-Man movies. And so I looked at Sam and I said, you guys never give me any new sides, any new screen, scene to read, home sides. And he said, well, we like what you're doing, just read again. So I read with the actor. And then Sam hits the woman next to him, and she says, I'm supposed to ask you to take your shirt off. So, Meat Market, Hercules, okay. And I was in good shape. You saw the series. I was in pretty good shape back then. And so I take my shirt off, and I got a collection of even, women and even guys going, oh, okay. So as I put it back on my shirt, Sam looks at me and goes, if you get the role, would you be willing to shave your chest and your stomach? I'm not like Robin Williams, hairy. I've got a man cover, and he said, would you be willing to shave? And I said, I'm sorry, I thought you wanted a man in this role. And I started to walk off the stage. And I swear, I think that's what got me the part. Because I did a couple of jokes while I was on stage, and they wanted Hercules to be funny. They wanted people to laugh with us, not laugh at us, because that's a show that easily could have gone that road if you took it seriously.
Right.
Even though we had serious episodes, it was still, it was a lot of fun. Because, every time I turned my head, they put a sound effect on it, So, and that's what we loved about it. And then I left the next day to go to Vancouver to shoot an episode of The Commish with Michael Chiklis, if you remember that series. And 3 days later, my manager called me and she goes, you got the part. And she's flipping out. And she said, you're right away, you're gonna start training 2 months with Douglas Wong, who's one of Bruce Lee's original students. And so I walked back on the set and I looked at Chiklis and I said, I don't want any crap from you, I'm half God now. But I spent the next 6 days a week, 8 hours a day working with Douglas Wong for 2 months. And I was about 220 then, so I pumped up about 5 pounds of weights, because I was always lifting weights at Golds anyway. So went down to New Zealand. It was going to be 5 2-hour movies with Anthony Quinn playing Zeus. That was cool enough for me.
So all 5 movies, that was already planned from the beginning?
It was only going to be 5 2-hour movies. It was never going to be a series.
Gotcha.
It was going to be part of this thing called the Action Pack that they had. They had Tech Wars with William Shatner producing. They had The Bandit. They had Midnight Run, the Charles Grodin De Niro movie they made into a series.
But you had
Vanishing Sun, like a crowd thing. So it was just going to be 5 2-hour movies. By the 3rd movie, I just said to Michael Hurst, who played my sidekick, Eolus in the series, I said, Mike, I bet they picked this thing up as a series, because we're having so many funny things that happen on that show in the movies. And I just said, there's no way they're not going to make this into a series. But a month later, my manager called and she says, stay down, they're going to call you soon. And they called Universal and said, we love it, we're going to make it a series. So 7 years, you know, it just, it was awesome. But we had a blast. New Zealand, put it on your bucket list. It's a wonderful, wonderful place.
Well, I think you hit too on one of the things that made Hercules work, and that was the humor, but it was done in a way that it wasn't over the top. It didn't make it campy. It made, you know, it was.
There was camp in there.
It was
too.
camp, but it's so hard to do camp well and do it. And
Yeah,
do it
I call it Malibu Hercules. That's
right. You know,
so,
it worked. I mean, it was tongue. It was.
but yeah, I mean, you do a bar fight and throw a guy
You're
through the
winking at the
wall to
audience,
cut out
right?
of his body in the bar. You know,
Yeah, I mean,
on the wall.
it's so hard to do camp and not make it silly.
Yeah.
And you pulled it all. You got
Well, and
just
there
the
were
right balance.
and
right?
there were serious episodes too.
Right.
There were emotional episodes too, which I thought. You know what I loved about the writers? What they did, they always, even though it was mythological, it wasn't biblical or anything like that.
Right.
They also had really good moral values in there.
Right.
They really did. I got a lot of letters. I mean, but by third season, thanks to people like you, we actually passed Baywatch as the most watched show in the world. We were in 176 countries. Yeah, which is pretty cool. And as Hollywood,
Some of y'all are too young to remember Baywatch, but that's a feat. Hey, in the early 90s.
So, but you know, we're 176 countries. But it's amazing to me that that during when that happened, Hollywood copies anything that's successful. So everybody jumped on that bandwagon. Because not only did we spin off, because Vanishing Sun got canceled, and they said let's do a female Hercules type show, and that's we spun off Xena. Well, when Xena came out in season 3 of our season 1, her season 1 was our season 3. They also came out with Sheena, another show. They came out with Beastmaster. They came out with Robin Hood. They came out with Tarzan. They came out with Beastmaster. They came out with Conan. They came out with a lot of copycat shows. But that's what Hollywood does, and I don't blame them. It's a business, right? And they saw how many eyeballs we had around the world, so they just jumped on that wagon.
I mean, it's a tribute to, you know, how well you guys are doing.
Trivia.
You know.
Season 5 on Hercules, we spun off young Hercules. They wanted to do a teenage version of me. Does anybody know who
I
played
forgot
me?
about that.
It was a 19-year-old unknown actor at the time. And he was really skinny. I said, come on, I think a teenager Hercules would be a little buff. It was a 19-year-old Ryan Gosling.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. They got canned after 2 seasons. I took Ryan out to one of my favorite Thai restaurants there in Auckland. And he was just depressed. And I said, Ryan, you're 20 years old. You're a good actor. You'll do fine.
Yeah, thanks.
Now I say, well, dude, when are you going to put me in one of your movies?
Wow.
Come on. We gave you 2 years in New Zealand.
Well, so talking about similar things, right? You know, during that, you also got your first leading role in a film, right? With Call.
Call the Conqueror,
You
yeah.
know,
Raphael Universal and Raphael
right.
De Laurentiis.
And you know that was.
It was her father, Dino De Laurentiis, who did the original Conan.
Right.
with Arnold.
So for those who don't know, Call the Conqueror, when it came out, originally it was going to be the third Conan movie.
Yes.
With Arnold,
Yep.
but you know, various things didn't work out. And they ended up changing into another character, Call, who was created by the same guy that created Conan, Robert
Yep.
Howard, right? A similar kind of character, and the stories are very different though.
Yeah.
But they used a Conan story with a couple of Call stories and pieced it together for the screenplay. So I'm curious, you know, going into that, were you really working to? I mean, obviously everyone's seeing you as Hercules at that point, right? And you've got a similar character, this barbarian warrior type character you're playing. What did you do? I mean, how did you approach that? Did you try to differentiate that character? Were you trying to?
Well,
are you familiar with the story?
Initially, the script was really violent. I
Right.
mean, it was. I mean, Call was a very violent, sexually, physically. I mean, it was a very hardcore R type of script. And they had a guy come down and work with me with axes,
Right.
because I had the axe. With this axe, I rule. You
Right.
know? So we spent probably 6 weeks. Every day after my 14-hour day on set, I would go to the gym and work out for an hour and a half anyway. That was sort of my routine. I was 18 hours door to door, so it was a long schedule for me. I loved it, not complaining. And so this guy came down and we did all kinds of different training for Call. And we went over, we shot for 2.5 months in Bratislava, Slovakia, and 3 weeks down in Croatia, which was pretty cool. And I don't know if anybody follows. I mean, I was always a guy that loved watching the basketball during the Olympics and stuff. And Croatia, back then it was like Yugoslavia and stuff, where everything all broke up. They were always ranked in the top 3, and I always wondered why. I'm 6'3". All the extras were, they're all 6'6", 6'7", 6'8". It's a really tall country down there. I was blown away by it. But it was a great experience to be able to do that and prep for that. But it was You know, they dyed the hair jet black, and they did so different phrases in there. The workouts were different. I had a blast doing it. I mean, it was fun. They toned it down quite a bit.
Yeah.
There's a couple of great stories. I ad-lib a lot. We ad-libbed a lot in Hercules, not to take it away from the writers, but I think a lot of the stuff you guys did like, because the writers started writing more and more of that, where Michael Hurst and I would come up with stuff on set. Because the writers they're in LA, we're in New Zealand, okay? We're a 13-hour flight away. So things happen on the set when you're blocking. You go, God, would it be funny if you did this or did that? So we did that a lot in that show. And there's a scene and then when Lightfoot, the actor Lightfoot, comes running up to me after Tia Carrera turns into be this evil 3,000-year witch, she has me get murdered by this creature down in this dungeon. I'm able to escape, the chains. I'm running by. He's there waiting for me. And he says, your bride, she's over 3,000 years old. And I said, she told me she was 19. So everybody in the crew laughed, and Raphael said, oh, you keep this in. Because the crew laughs, trust me, they're jaded. If they get emotional laughing or crying, you know that you hit something good. So we kept that in the movie. And I have a kissing scene with Tia, and I've known Tia for years, even before we shot this movie, Tia Carrera. So I said to Tia, Tia, so how are we going to do this? I mean, I don't want to make you uncomfortable. She goes, no tongue, Sorbo, whatever, no tongue. I said, fine. They call action. She sticks her tongue so far down my throat. After the take, I said, what's that about? She goes, I couldn't help myself. So I looked at the director, I need one more take. I think I screwed up somehow on that. So.
It was good, but you two had chemistry. It was good.
Oh, Tia's a hoot. She's just so much fun.
Yeah, that was, that movie should get more love than it did.
Did your hands get tired? It's time to switch? Okay.
So again, that was your first feature role. Did any other feature roles come out?
Universal was gearing me up to basically become one of the next big action stars.
Right.
And then I had another movie come up. I was going to shoot. I went straight from there down to New Zealand to shoot season 6 on Hercules.
Right.
And then no, it's season 5. I'm sorry, season 5 on Hercules. Then when I finished season 5, I was coming back to shoot another movie called Black Dog.
Okay.
And they replaced me with Patrick Swayze because something happened to me that had me pull out. I had an illness that almost took me out. So unknown to me, I was having problems with my left arm on season 5, the last 3 months. My arm was killing me, my shoulders killing me. I couldn't figure what was going on. But I was doing all my own stunts, probably 95% of them. Not saying because of ego, because it was just fun for me to do. And my ego probably said I could do them anyway. I'm an athletic guy, so I just loved it, and it was just fun. My stunt guys were awesome. They made me look like a stud. I mean, those guys were just so good. In fact, one of them has become Daniel Craig's body double in every other James Bond movies, Ben Cook. Yeah, he's done a great job. So I get back to LA to do press on Call the Conqueror and prepping for this movie, Black Dog. And I go see my doctor, and they found a lump way up here in my shoulder. And before they could figure out what it was, it had been an aneurysm that had been spitting blood clots in my arm for months, suffocating the blood flow. My fingers were always cold and numb. I couldn't figure out why. Well, the blood flow was getting suffocated. It opened up hundreds of clots, but unfortunately a number of clots went to my brain. I suffered a series of strokes. And it took me 4 months to learn how to walk and balance again. It took me 3 years to fully recover. So I wrote a book, it's on my table, it's called True Strength, My Journey from Hercules to Mere God and How Nearly Dying Saved My Life. And it's an inspirational book, it's not a bummer book. It's a lot of humor in there, and semi-autobiographical.
Because you're here now with us.
I'm here, I passed every physical sense, but season 6 and 7 were tough for me. I went from 14-hour days down to 1-hour day those first couple months and slowly worked back up, because they wanted to keep the series going. But we all hit roadblocks in life, and that was one that at the age I was at, in my 30s, and the physical fitness I was, it was a bit of a shocker. And, lucky I ended up where I ended up, but it definitely put me on a different path, there's no question.
And I know you've done a lot of work with stroke awareness.
Yeah.
I've
done a lot
since then.
Yeah. So it's just, it's been interesting ride, but I mean, since then I went into Andromeda after that. Did 5 years on that.
Great show.
Yeah. It was into season 7 on Hercules, and they were actually talking about using seasons 8, 9, and 10. I get a call down in New Zealand from Majel Roddenberry, and I'll go, that's cool, and there's Chapel's calling.
Exactly.
With the turbo boobs under her outfit, And she says, I got a show that my husband wrote in 1969, when the original Star Trek finished. And I think of anybody who's out there right now, he would love you to be the first captain ever created after Captain Kirk, which is Captain Dylan Hunt. I said, Majel, stop. Are you saying we're going to do a series together? She goes, yes. I said, I'm already in. You don't have to say anything else. And we got 5 seasons on that series, and it was a blast. We shot up in Vancouver.
It's a little weird seeing you with the short hair for the first time in a long time.
It was weird. It was weird. They actually came Entertainment Tonight came to the Beverly Hills salon. They booked for me to cut my hair for the first time in 7. I mean, I was always getting trimmed, but never chopping off 8 inches of it. And we sold it for cancer, and they raised like $40,000.
Oh, very cool.
Which is pretty
so
cool. Yeah, so it was cool. But it was weird for me because even though I look at that first season, now I look at it and I go, well, it's kind of Jackson Brown kind of long. It was still long, but to me it looks so short.
Right.
And then we got shorter as each season went on.
Yeah, it was a great show. It was. How different was that? Like you had been doing so much work in more fantasy-oriented things like Hercules and called those kind of things to switch to a more traditional science fiction.
I went from Herc to Kirk.
Yeah, from Herc to Kirk. I love it.
That was my wife said that. But what I liked about that show was that you know there was more danger for me in it.
Right.
I could die. I could. Hercules, it's Hercules. You're gonna keep going, but you can get wounded more and stuff like that. So, and it was a bigger show in terms of we had 6 other regulars on the cast. So I said, spread the wealth, man. I said, I wouldn't mind a day off now and then. I said, but because of Hercules, I was in every scene, every episode. But it was great. And it would have gone 2 more years, but the company that owned us, Tribune Company, went into bankruptcy. Oh. And we were the #1 show in first-run syndication, and they had to cancel the series.
Because it was doing so well.
Halfway through season 5, they told us, and they had to rush. They already had another Bible set up for the next 2 seasons, 6 and 7, and they had to rush us through. And it's really too bad.
It is too bad. It was a good show.
And the Sci-Fi Channel was going to buy it to keep it going, but they had just started. What was this? Next Generation? No, Battlestar Galactica. Our season 5 was their season 1.
Ah. That's too bad.
Bummer.
Yeah, it was great world building in that show.
Yeah, no, I loved it. I loved it. I thought it was a blast. Yeah. And we shot in Vancouver, and just down the road from us is where they were shooting Stargate.
Right.
And I always gave those guys a hard time because every episode of Stargate, they're in this beautiful green, blue sky mountains of Vancouver, and every planet they go to, I said, every planet you go to looks like Vancouver. So we stayed in sideline, did a lot of green screen, at least have a planet look like a planet. So it was like every time they're walking through the woods of Vancouver.
Right, absolutely. So after that, okay, so that did get canceled. What did you do after that?
Started doing a lot of movies.
Yeah.
I just finished my 67th movie.
Wow. Okay.
There's a dozen that suck, but I got really good ones. I got good ones at my table right now. I put the good ones out.
Tell us about your favorites. Tell us about the good ones.
Well, I did Soul Surfer. I know people saw Soul Surfer. It's a great movie. I'm the one who saves her life in the water. I just finished a movie with Dennis Quaid. Dennis Quaid, where both and I were in Soul Surfer. We're in a movie, the Reagan movie. He plays President Reagan. I'm playing his pastor. I got a movie in theaters right now called The Girl Who Believes in Miracles. It's a great little family movie. I've got one I directed coming out in end of September. Another miracle title. It's called Miracle in East Texas. True story set in 1930. About 2 con men played by myself and John Ratzenberger. You guys remember John from Cheers, and every Pixar movie is the voice of something. It's about these 2 con men that would go through Oklahoma and Texas, wooing widows out of their money on fake oil wells. True story, right in the heart of the Depression, 1930.
Nice.
They get to Kilgore, Texas. They strike oil by accident. Largest oil find in the history of the world.
Wow.
And Lou Gossett Jr.'s in it. He was awesome. Yeah. Tyler Mane, if you don't know who he is, he's a 6'9" wrestler. Yeah. From Canada, Sabretooth and X-Men, yeah. And I directed. It's a great movie. It's won all kinds of awards.
Is this the first time you directed? Or?
No, I started directing back on Hercules.
Did you? Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I've been DGA for 25 years now, yeah.
How different is that?
Well, when you're on a set, as much as I've been on a set, you get to learn everybody's job because I wanted to learn everybody's job. Right. So it's just really, the people I hire, they know their job better than me, Camera department, the wardrobe department, makeup department. I just say, this is the kind of look I'm looking for. You guys do it, take it from there. So it's hard. You want a first AD. The first AD is the guy you want to be the bad cop, good cop. I don't want to deal with all the problems. I'm already talking to the actors. I'm already talking about how I want the scene to look like. You all have all read books. When you read a book, that's why people say, oh, the book is so much better than the movie, because they still can't replace what we read, in our minds, what we see in our minds. So I have my idea for it, but I'm always open to listen with, especially if you get a good director of photography. I always love to listen to what they have to say. And that movie's great. I'm about to direct another one. I don't know if you guys know the Left Behind books, but I'm directing the next one. We're shooting I Leave for Canada here in about 3 weeks. And then I shoot up there till the beginning of October, like 10th or something like that. And then from there I go straight to New Mexico to do a Western with Dean Cain, so Superman fans. Superman and Hercules are getting together.
Yeah. Let's get a few questions while we have some time. Questions from the audience? Good. Anybody else has any questions? Come down to the mic, please.
Hey, hey.
We can hear you.
Oh, hello.
Yep, we're good. You're good.
We can hear you.
Yeah. So, how was your work with the cast of the Boom the
Boone?
yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's one of those really obscure movies I did. It was fun, I mean, because I know the guy directing it. He said it was a one-day thing for me just to pop in there, and I played myself. That I think I had like delinquent parking tickets or something, and the bounty hunters chasing me down. We have this just classic chase scene, just going through people's homes, running down alleys. They got just spy cams everywhere. So I mean, it was pretty funny. He's running on top of buildings and roofs to track me down. He finally catches me. You got boned, and I go, that sounds really weird. But
I admit I haven't seen that movie.
I'm in it for maybe 5 minutes, but it was fun. It was just fun. Hello.
Nice.
Hi. Kelly and I are huge Hercules fans.
Oh, thank you.
But since hearing about all your new movies, we're totally going to go home and Google them.
Cool.
And like, I'm going to show some and watch
Do you have a
them.
DVD player? I know it's becoming obscure. If you have
No.
Xbox, no Xbox, no PlayStation.
Oh, no, yeah, we do. Yes.
Come down and get my DVDs.
Yeah, we're going to
We'll talk
stop
about.
by.
I'll point out the ones you can ask questions
Yeah,
about.
do
them.
it, and we'll take pictures.
There's some good ones.
I was wondering, out of all the movies, and Hercules as well, what was your favorite deleted scene that didn't get to go, but you really wanted to be shown?
That's a really good question. I got to go to Soul Surfer because after the attack, when Bethany gets attacked by a shark and loses her arm, the guy that I played, the real life father that I played, he told me about the nightmares he had for 6 months because he figured he would die too, because he paddles over this little 13-year-old girl with all the blood coming out, figured there'd be a feeding frenzy, and he has a really emotional scene with Helen Hunt and Dennis Quaid in the movie, and they took it out. And it's like, it was a long scene, it's probably 12 minutes long. People don't realize, I mean, there's a method to the way they want to get movies out there. There are a lot of 2-hour and 2.5-hour movies, but most movies are in that 90-minute, 80 to 100-minute mark, and there's a reason for that. Because they get an extra play in theaters. It gives the theaters one more opportunity to sell more popcorn and more sodas, and it gives the studio one more way to make more money. So they love that hour and a half somewhere either side of that, because that's big for them in terms of generating more money. And that scene would have put it up to like an hour and almost 2 hours, because they took out a couple other scenes as well. But that scene bugged me because it was such a good scene. You're working with an Academy Award winner like Helen Hunt, you're working with Dennis Quaid, who's like in every movie, and it was a bummer not to have that happen. But it's the way it goes. I have a movie I directed called Let There Be Light that was in theaters for about 4 months a couple years ago. I think there's one left at the table. 4 of them are gone already. On a Friday, I'm going, wow, people are getting the DVDs. I had to memorize 10 pages opening monologue. It was a huge opening monologue, and I directed it. And we had 700 people in the audience, and we had to cut it down by 50%, which was a killer. It still works, but we wanted to get to the movie. Right. It opens the movie, and you're like 10 minutes in, you're going,
it's tough.
I want to get to it.
Yeah.
But I was like, damn. I worked my butt off to memorize 10 pages of dialogue, single space.
How was that?
It was well written. Well, if it's well written, I find it easy.
Yeah.
If it's it can be well written, but for me, it might be hard to because my brain's just the flow of it doesn't seem right. I'll call the writers. I did Hercules all the time. I talked to the writers. I was always 3 episodes ahead of what we were filming. And so I'd always read the scripts in between takes of whatever else we're doing and go, okay, I'm going to make notes and call the writers back in LA.
So you really did have a lot of input on that.
Oh yeah. I mean, that helped me I got exec producer on Andromeda because of that, because I was talking to writers all the time, But I didn't have to do all the tech stuff. I mean, Lexa Doig playing Andromeda, she had to do most of the tech dialogue, and her outtakes, she's like sorry kids, she's like a trucker with tits, okay? If she blows a line, man, does she do a string of cussing. And we recorded all that, so at the rap party, we showed her up there just blowing lines for like 5 minutes. It was just so funny.
Yeah, so obviously that had to get cut.
You were talking about earlier all the stunt work and everything, but what was the craziest stunt that you ever did for like Hercules or Andromeda or even Cull? I mean, what was the craziest thing you ever did as an actor for stunts?
Physically, yeah.
Cull had some nasty ones in with the axe. We had a 50-pound axe that was the one that I would just carry because it looked really good. Then you have the 22-pound axe, I think it was, that is swing around. And I had to fight so many guys in this one scene in the water. I'm in the water up to my knees and all these guys coming at me. It was exhausting, it was dangerous. But the worst accident on me happened with Michael Hurst, who played Aeolus. And when we did at the end of season 2, we did a 3-show arc of introducing the character Xena. At the time, they didn't know if they're going to do it or not. They just wanted to introduce the character and see how people reacted. And so I had a hard time believing that she could seduce Michael without some magic spell to turn against a guy that he's known since he was a kid. And I lost that battle to the writers, and I said, it makes no sense to me. There's got to be a better reason for this. But anyway, I lost that fight. So when I show up at the camp to try to, turn him right, I get surrounded by 50 of her bad guys, and he comes at me with a sword. We have this big sword fight. Well, during the first rehearsal of it, I do this 360 spin on the ground. I duck. Because Michael's about 5'5", I'm 6'3". So I do this duck, and he's supposed to swing where your head was. I mean, you always, stunts, I always wanted to fight the stunt guys, because they know. Because when you do scenes, stunt work, you always, if you watch even, the best guys that do it in the world, you look at your target before you come at them. You look at them before I do that swing around. My head comes around first before my leg follows with a kick. And so we did the rehearsal in this fight where I duck and I do a 360 spin and come back at him. Well, he's supposed to swing at the head. Well, I felt just on my hair whoosh, with the sword. I mean, it touched I went, whoa. I said, Peter, I don't like that move. And Mike goes, no, Mike, I'm the New Zealand fencing champion. Don't worry, this will be no problem. Very first take, he clocks me the sword in the back of the head. I wake up in the hospital. I was knocked out, concussion, cut up in the back of my head. If you watch it, Michael's like this.
Oh, no!
He should have been like this and swinging up here. His eyes were closed and not like this. He hit me on this side. Had he hit me on that side of the sword, I'd probably not be here.
Wow.
Boom. 13 stitches back of my head. He sends me a whiskey that I don't even drink as a gift. I said, dude, if you're gonna do it, make a Crown Royal, okay? Give me something smoother. But yeah, I don't like fighting other actors. I'm very good at my stunts. I really am. I never hit all the years of my stunts on Hercules, we did 2 to 3 fights every episode. Only one stunt guy I ever connected with, Cliff. And Cliff, I was fighting guys in front of me. He's got a mark behind me because I throw an elbow like that. Well, he went 2 feet over the mark, and I broke his nose. I caught him so hard. He's back, his eyes are watering. He's, oh man, I go to Cliff, I'm sorry, it's my fault, man. My fault. But Michael, a lot of times, would connect with these guys, and they would get mad at him and go, I'll tell you, Michael, just one more time. But I took pride that I got good at, at faking it, so to speak, because the sound effects and the camera angles sell us stuff, that's what sells it. I think that's what makes Jackie Chan movies so fun to watch is the outtakes at the end.
Yeah.
Because the stunts they did were just insane, and they get hurt.
Yeah, he was doing
I got lots of bruises and cuts and sprains and you get a lot of that stuff with that, but that's just one of those things that happens.
How about the martial arts themselves? I mean, you said you were training with Wong.
I trained a lot with well, Douglas Wong had something called the White Lotus Kung Fu style that he created. I learned a lot of different martial arts from the guys, because every episode, we rehearsed every single day. As I said, 2 to 3 fights every scene. So say the fight was Wednesday, well by Friday and Monday and Tuesday, we rehearsed. I would block a scene, I'd go 50 yards over there with the stunt guys, rehearse the moves, all the moves, because it's a dance, right? And then you come back and do the scene. So you do it. I mean, there were episodes where I had to fight 12 guys. And it's just me. So I got to memorize 24 moves. I each got 2 moves. And they go, we got speed, and action. And just I sound, go, what's my first move? But once you do it, once you get past that first one, it is like a dance. And then it just flows. And yeah, you screw up. But I mean, the camera guys got so good. And if there was any mess up from one of the stunt guys or from me, we just kept it going. We never stopped. I hate stopping because I think it ruins the energy that's going on. If I miss a kick that I'm supposed to get, or they miss something, they go the wrong way, or I go the wrong way, we just back it up. Keep it going, I'll back up. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, go. And we go back into it again. And we shoot at a number of different angles with probably 6 different camera angles. So when editing comes, it just looks awesome. Our guys were great. I mean, John Mahaffey, our DP, went on to be second unit director in all the Spider-Man movies, Aquaman, all the Avengers. He's the second unit director. Peter McCaffrey is ranked in the top 2 best Steadicam operators in the world. Here's a guy that if I'm running through the woods and he's got Steadicam on, he's running backwards as fast as I'm running forward. He would have a guy with him holding onto his shirt, and he'd be looking to make sure he's not running on trees or something. But I mean, it was incredible.
It was great choreography, especially for
Great
the
stuff.
time period, right? I mean, it's compared to some of the other stuff at the time.
I
too.
had people come up to me that I mean, like I said, a huge hit. You don't realize. You get back home. I remember I went one year to the Academy Awards in '96. I saw Brad Pitt there. Brad and I were in acting class for 2 years together. And so he goes, "Hey, Sorbs, how you doing, man?" So I walk inside. He goes, "Met Tom Cruise?" Right? No, I know Tom Cruise. Met Tom because they just finished shooting the Interview with the Vampire, and I wanted a Lestat role so bad. And I said they took 5-6 crews instead of me. But anyway, you know, I'm sitting there talking with those guys, and all of a sudden I tap my shoulder. It's Tom Hanks, and he goes, "Kevin, Tom Hanks, big fan. We kids love your show. We watch Hercules all the time." You don't know. You don't know who's watching. I'm in the bathroom one time at a restaurant in LA. Who comes next to me? Rob Reiner. He looks at me and goes, "Hey, Kevin, so love Hercules, man. Your production value is awesome for a TV show." I'm going, "I'd shake your hand, but I'm busy here right now." But I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah.
You don't know. I mean, there's a lot of people. Bill Murray at a golf tournament.
Oh, no kidding.
Sitting down afterwards, and I'm ordering a beer after the golf tournament. He sits next to me, starts telling me about, love the show, and starts telling me how we can improve things on it. But I go, "You watch my shows?" "Yeah, I love your show." I was like, "This is so cool."
I think you just want to play golf with Bill Murray. That's a
Bill's
bucket
blast.
list
I've
thing,
done his
right?
golf
I mean,
tournament.
from
about-
Caddyshack.
Yeah, I've done his golf tournament a
Oh
number
my
of times.
God, you know, it's sure going to come from nowhere, right? Oh, that's cool. You got a question? Yeah, fire away.
So, how was you work in the movie Alone for Christmas?
Alone for Christmas?
Yeah, you managed
You go for the obscure little movies. I love that movie. It was a fun little movie. It was kind of rip-off of Home Alone in a way, you know, and we had fun with that. That's another one I think I only worked on maybe 2 or 3 days on. I had a lot of buddies in the business that call up and say, "Hey, we got this little part, and if I read the script, it looks fun." And it was a fun part, you know. We had a lot of dogs in that movie or something, didn't we?
Yeah, I think it was.
I think we did.
Bone.
I got one at the table called the Santa Suit. I'd recommend the Santa Suit. It's a good Christmas one. But that's funny though. You know these little movies. I did like 1 or 2 days on.
He's
But
serious.
it was fun. No, it was a fun little movie. You said the title. I didn't think about it for a while. Oh yeah, I did that. Well, people talk about characters, and I'm going, I can't remember that character. It's like, what's the name of the character I played? Oh,
You were
yes,
the
sir.
dog catcher.
So I know you had a big part of getting the Kickstarter campaign for Mythica going and
Yep.
produced. Can you talk about that and how you got involved and how you enjoyed those roles?
Mythica was sort of it's kind of like a Lord of the Rings type of thing, you know. I played sort of a Gandalf character, and I'm not in it that much. I think these are ones that I would come in and do 2-3 days in one movie, 2-3 days in the next, keep it going. I remember the first day we shot everything in Utah, and I was up in Provo, and it's February, and we're at 13,000 feet. It's literally 10 below zero outside, and I'm wearing a robe, and everybody else has a North Face gear, you know. And I said, "Guys, I grew up in Minnesota, and this is why I left in Minnesota." But it was fun. I think I've got one left. I think we got rid of 4 copies already. We got all 5 movies on one DVD set. I had fun doing that because I love doing movies that I love stuff that's fantasy, things like that. And that's why I did Hercules. It was just.
I was going to ask, are you a genuine fan of that kind of material?
Oh yeah. I was an avid reader as a kid. My dad was a school teacher and I was push books on us. And I remember I was 7th, 8th grade. I started reading all mythology just for the heck of it. And then playing Hercules after all the time was great. I gotta say with Anthony Quinn, for people old enough to remember Anthony Quinn, he's one of the golden age, you know, actors of Hollywood. The guy was nominated for 6 Academy Awards, won twice. I recommend his movies, but I asked him. I said, "You're 78 years old. Why are you doing these 5 television movies?" He said, "Kevin, I'm 78, and I've always wanted to play Zeus. When will I get the chance to do it?" I said, "Makes sense." But we got to know each other very well up until he passed away 9 years later. But we became very good friends. And every time I went to New York, I'd go up to Rhode Island to visit him and stay at his house. Just a great guy. When he met my parents, he put his arm around my mom. He says, "I'm his other padre." So, we had dinner every Saturday night for a year. The stories I got from Lawrence of Arabia, Requiem for a Heavyweight,
Requiem, right.
Guns of Navarone, you know, Sorbo the Greek. I mean, so many amazing movies he did. I grew up watching old movies. I think that because of my mom. I think that was one of the reasons I wanted to be an actor. I love the old style of Hollywood like that with you know, Jimmy Stewart and Clark Gable, and Cary Grant, you know, Katharine Hepburn, all these things. I love watching those movies. It was great. Yes.
Very cool.
Hello. We always watch like Pure Flicks, me and my husband, and so I just want to ask you, like personally, you know, what made you started from Hercules to do Christian movies?
Well, I'm a man of faith myself. Dallas Jenkins is doing The Chosen right now, which is pretty big. he approached me. His father's Jerry Jenkins, part of the writers on the Left Behind novels. His kids, the same age as mine, we're good friends, and he sent me a script. He said, hey, check out the script of this guy. It's called What If? And I read it, and I said, who's playing Pastor Ben in the movie? He says, he starts listening to other actors. I said, no, I'm playing it. He goes, dude, I can't afford you. So this is such a low-budget movie. And I said, this movie, I'm reading the script on the airplane. I got the guy next to me, and I'm laughing a little bit, and I started crying a little bit in one scene. He goes, you're right. And I said, oh yeah, it's just something I'm reading here. And it was so good, it's so funny. And so I said, he goes, you really want to play? And I said, yeah, just pay me the SAG minimum. You know, they all say you got to pay a minimum amount for, you know, actors, directors. We shot in Michigan, in Manistee, in Traverse City, and Grand Rapids. If you haven't seen What If, please see it. Those are all sold out already at my table too already. I just brought 3 of those, are gone already. To me, it's a better movie than God's Not Dead. It's the same writers. God's Not Dead is one of those anomalies. I mean, $2 million movie made $140 million in theaters. That's crazy. That just doesn't happen. 70 times the return on his money. I mean, you look at Avengers, you look at Galaxy, Guardians of the Galaxy. Those are movies that have to make $800 million to break even. They shoot them for $300-400 million, and they put another couple $100 million promoting it. Well, they make $2 billion, so they're willing to spend $800 million to make a $1.2 billion profit. But that's 1.5 times what they, you know.
Right.
This thing made 70 times.
That's pretty amazing.
And but I tell people all the time, What If is in my top 3 of 67 movies. I mean, I love that movie. I like movies that have a good message. Walt Disney said back in the 1950s that movies and television will influence youth. Well, what's going on in our streets of all our major cities right now in America? Tell me there isn't some, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't have all the answers to that, but there's a lot of anger and hate in our world, and I'm trying to do movies that have a positive message. Movies that have something about hope, redemption, faith, love, laughter, things that we need. I think we need hope more than anything in our country right now.
We really should not underestimate the effect of popular culture.
Yeah, I think of course it has influence.
Hugely important.
Yeah, I think Hollywood runs a culture. It really does. And I'm not a prude in any way. There's a lot of movies I'll see. I love seeing, I'll see R-rated movies if they got a good storyline to it. I'm more than happy to. But I want for myself. I'm trying to do more movies that have more of just the message that maybe is, hey, isn't enough crap in the news? I mean, don't you want to go and be entertained and sort of get away from the world and say, I can relate to that character, or I know that person, I'm that person. I want to do movies like that.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm doing.
That's good.
Yes, sir.
She kind of stole my thunder because I was going to bring up the God's Not Dead when you played the bad guy. And I've never known you to play kind of like the bad guy, so I was just wondering about that. Or
Well, that's a good
would
one.
you use someone who was like that?
It was the same writers that did What If, as I just mentioned. God's
You
Not
did a
Dead.
great job, though.
But thank you.
Very
Thank you.
passionate.
Well, I know people like that. So, and the writing was so good. I mean, the writing was so good in that. I say I played an atheist college professor, and I go, oh, I'm sorry, that's redundant. I played a college professor. I enjoyed playing that character because there was redemption for him at the end of the movie as well, in a way, I think the so-called faith-based movies, I think they're becoming, their last 10 years, I think they're less cheesy. I think there's great writing in there. Dennis Quaid did a movie I Can Only Imagine based on the #1 Christian song ever recorded. And it's got a great message in it, and I just think, why not? Why can't there be more movies that have a positive message instead of a negative? I saw the movie Noah. I got invited to the screening at Paramount before it went out. And my wife looks at me like halfway through, she goes, this isn't the story of Noah, this is Waterworld meets Transformers. It was a very strange take on the story of Noah and the Ark. Noah was a schizophrenic alcoholic who was going to kill his family after the journey was over. Okay, but they hired an atheist director to direct that, which I thought was kind of weird, especially in Hollywood, so I don't know.
It's like they did a fantasy take on the story or something like that.
It was a it was, which is fine too. I mean, directors have their own vision for it. You got to take it for what it's worth. Oh, look at this little orangey coming down. Keep going, buddy. Keep trolling.
So you mentioned
This is the definition of walking. It's the alternating loss and capture of balance. Mobile now.
It's going pretty good.
Get a third one. Get a zone defense at home. Oh, you got it already. Yeah, I do too. You got more than that. Okay.
So you mentioned you were working on a project with Dean Cain. That brings up...
It's a Western called Trailblazers.
Right.
Oh, I know where you're going.
You know where I'm going with this. This is a question I wanted to ask. Superman. You almost played Superman, right?
Well, I got on the last 2 guys for Superman, Lois and Clark.
And Lois and Clark.
And it was Dean Cain and myself. We did screen tests with Terry Hatcher, who I did a 3-show arc on Supergirl.
Right.
Yeah. And so we did a screen test. It was at Warner Brothers Studio. I'm driving back home. And back then we just had beepers, remember beepers? And I pull over and go to an actual payphone. Call my agent, what's going on? You got the role, you got the role, you're gonna be Superman. So 24 hours later, they called back and said, oh, we changed our mind, we're going with Dean. So welcome to the highs and lows of acting.
Wow.
So then the next 3 months happened with the whole Hercules thing, and I got Hercules. So I was at, Dean's a good friend. So as I love to tell Dean, I go, yeah, my show went for 7 years and became the most watched TV show in the world. Your show got canned after 3 seasons. So I'm okay with that trade-off. Dean's a good guy. Dean and I just shot a movie up in Cleveland together about 6 weeks ago. Yeah.
Let's talk about some of your newer projects. What do you got in the pipeline?
Well, I just mentioned I'm doing Left Behind. Right. I mentioned Miracle in East Texas is coming out.
Right.
I just did a pilot called Pieces for Netflix. It's an hour pilot, hour drama. We shot up in Mount Shasta in Northern California. It's beautiful up in the mountains. It'd be like 45 degrees at night and 85, 90 during the day. And Pieces is a true story about a camp that I run the camp for troubled teens. I know we have no troubled teens out there, but this is for troubled teens. And then I did 8 episodes with Barry Bostwick. It's called Meet the Potwins. It's half-hour comedy for Fox. We shot it last year. We'll see if it gets picked up. We're still waiting. And it's sort of like Last Man Standing, Tim Allen show. It's pretty funny. And Barry Bostwick is hilarious in it. Barry's in the original Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Right.
And he's also in Spin City. He played the mayor with Michael J. Fox, the crazy mayor. So he was a hoot. He plays my pot-smoking hippies '60s father, and it's pretty entertaining.
Cool. You got another one?
He's back with another obscure title.
About to run out of time. This may be our last one. Let's see what we got here.
So how much was in the movie Meet the Spartans?
Meet the Spartans was a hoot, man. Meet the Spartans was a spoof on 300.
Yeah.
And I remember I had 2 meetings that were about 3 hours apart in LA, and I lived 45 miles north of LA at the time. I live in Florida now, just so everybody doesn't know that. We moved here 2.5 years ago.
Smart.
And it was smart. And I remember buddies telling me, you guys see 300 Man, it's a really cool movie. And I said, I love movies like that. I said, yeah, I'll go see it. So I had a meeting. I went to a matinee, like a 1 o'clock matinee. I've been watching this movie, and I thought it was great. And I knew ahead of time they filmed all of it on green screen. All of it was shot indoors. It was all, amazing special effects. And but I kept thinking the whole time, I said, no, they're so serious. This is Sparta. And everybody's just so, and they got this giant hole in the middle of town. I said, how many dogs and kids fall in this hole every day? That little kids run around with a ball, And I said, this is a perfect movie to spoof. Well, about a month later, I get a call from the guys who directed a date movie and scary movie and epic movie and all these guys. And they said, hey, we got a part for you. We're gonna spoof 300. And I started laughing. I said, you don't have to say anything more. I'm in. So I played the lieutenant. I played the right hand of Leonidas in this movie. And we shot down in New Orleans in July and August. Perfect time to be there too. But we had the same stunt guys. And we just cut the whole thing apart. It's the trouble with it now. There's so many more things to make fun of, but we're just making fun of all the things at that time because I think we shot it about 7, 8 years ago, maybe even more. But we had a blast filming this thing. It was just so much fun. And I had lived a line there. I said, "I'm gonna go Hercules on your ass during a fight." They kept it in.
Got it. What an Easter
But but we had so much fun. Carmen Electra's in there, and it was just got a pretty big cast in it. David Belafonte's in it, and it was just a blast.
Spoofs are always good.
Yeah, and I love doing that kind of stuff. I was a big David Zucker fan. I loved Airplane,
right? Absolutely.
Naked Gun, and all those things. Those are just fun movies.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, I hate to do it, but we're out of time.
We're out of time.
All right.
I'll see you at my table.
Go back to the table. Buy lots of DVDs.
All right.
Big hand.
Hold on. You can either go to kevinsorbo.net. Actually, I got stuff at my table too.
Yeah.
Or sorbos.org. Sorbos.org has a lot of information on things coming down the pipeline. I do a lot of things. I have a movie with Dean Cain that I am directing. We start filming in January. So it's pretty much Dean and I. 80% of it's inside this car. It's called Carpool Lane. He plays an up and rising lawyer that's trying to get, he's doing anything and everything. He's forgetting about his family and he's losing everything else, but that's business. It's in LA. Traffic is crappy as normal. He sees me on the side of the road as a bum. We'll work for food. He says, "Get in the car. I'll give you $100 so he can use the carpool lane with me in the car." Hilarity ensues after that. You'll love this movie. Carpool Lane will be fun.
Thanks everybody. Big hand. Kevin Sorbo.